Okay.
Thank you so much, Ro, for joining us on the Book of Love podcast. How are you all the way from Calgary?
Yay! I'm doing amazing. Thank you for having
Good
me.
to
I'm so
see your
excited.
beautiful face again. I was just showing her everybody the waterfront because the studio looks over the Halifax waterfront, and we reminisced on how we first met.
I know, like
It was a wedding
a
in
million
2000
years
and
ago.
a million years ago, a million years ago. And now you're rocking it on TikTok. You are full-time coaching and rocking it on TikTok. Congratulations, girl. You're a boss.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love
Can
it.
you can you just tell everybody a little bit about who you are and the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So my name's Ro, and I have been involved in a narcissistic abusive relationship for 14 years and then jumped into another one for 9 months and didn't know. And then through therapy, I learned that, the first one was a narcissist, but I didn't really care too much about the term or what it did to me. All I cared about was getting out and getting healthy and setting up my life, which I did. Then someone introduced me to good old TikTok, and I found my way onto this amazing new planet of learning and education and entertainment and community. And I started talking and sharing my story. One day I decided to share a story about how I was getting a coffee, a Starbucks coffee, and I was nervous about getting it because if my ex saw me holding a coffee, even after a year and a half of not being with him, that he would financially abuse me again. And I asked TikTok, what is this? What is this anxiety? And I came back with a lot of really good answers. And in therapy, I found out that I'm suffering from complex PTSD, and just started sharing. People really loved it, and I started sharing, and then I started really working with people and just answering questions from my own experience. Now, after people told me, why don't you just become a coach? Why don't you start a podcast? Why don't you start this? Why don't you start that? I just did everything. And I just started really learning about what narcissism was. I did the education, I did the training, and now I'm helping people get out of relationships or identify relationships or find out that their parents were narcissists or find out that their toxic work environments were holding them back. And I'm just really using this pain and turned it into a fuel to get people in that driver's seat again. So that's what I do. I'm a certified life coach. I run a page called Rollercoaster of Love. And that is the relationship that I was on. It was a roller coaster of love. So I'm just trying to help people get off that roller coaster.
That's amazing. And I too was in a narcissistic relationship for 3 years. And I was a dating coach at the time, getting into more about dating coaching. And even in that relationship, I still never heard about narcissism. Now, I have a question for you because is this the new big word? Because I feel like, is it just me that hasn't heard about it until the last 2 years? Is it just being talked about more? Or what's going on there with the word narcissist?
Yeah, a great question. A lot of people ask, why is narcissist trending? It's trending right now. And to that, I usually say, well, is that trending? Is abuse trending? Because what narcissism is a set of behaviors that's self-serving. Narcissism is defined as 9 behavioral traits of a person who does something towards other people that benefits them. And in the process, in exchange for someone else's pain, none of that really matters to someone who has all those behaviors, or at least 5 of those 9 behaviors. So people are starting to recognize what narcissism is because it was really hard to define before. Like there was a lot of people who were just being abused, and it's just, okay, well, that person's just a jerk. So we can just identify them as a jerk. But now if we put these behaviors in place that were put in place in psychology, then we can actually understand what we went through and have some sort of closure. Because the thing with narcissists is they will not give you closure, right? There's a lot of people who break out of these relationships or break out of these dynamics, and they never get any of these answers. Like they just don't get the answers. They don't understand why someone would do this to them, why they would cheat on them, lie to them, steal from them, why they would do that, because they wouldn't do that. I mean, you wouldn't do that, right? So you ask yourself, how could somebody do this to me? And then you get stuck in wanting to figure it out for yourself. Then you see this buzzword, narcissism, and people are understanding what they went through, and it becomes popular. A lot of people say narcissism or narcissist is an overused word on places like TikTok or YouTube, or, this social media lifestyle that people are in. But I believe it's the most misunderstood word. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is really just trying to understand it. That's why it
Mhm.
pops up.
Absolutely. Now, I didn't prepare you with this question, but I went to a wedding this weekend and a gal came to me. She's a friend of a friend, and she had just started doing research on narcissism. And she realized that the 5-year relationship that she just got out of, through her research, has determined that that was a narcissistic relationship. Now, the question I have is, she said to me, in my research of learning what narcissism is, sometimes I think maybe I'm the narcissist, because
Mm.
we're starting to learn all of these traits. And she was really afraid that she was the narcissist. And I remember feeling the same way when I started researching narcissism with my relationship. Am I the narcissist? Do I have these traits? Is that normal? And what do you have to say to people that feel that way?
It is 100% normal. It is common. And I would say 9 times out of 10, when a client enters my Zoom call, that's one of the first things they say after leaving a relationship is, I wonder if I'm the narcissist. And it comes from a couple different reasons. One is the narcissist themselves will always project their behaviors onto you. So when you're with someone who's abusive in this way, and you call them out, or even just share with them whatever you're feeling, they're gonna say, "Oh, I know you are, but what am I?" Or, "Sticks and stones will break my phone." Like, it just bounces off of me and sticks to you. Like, everything is going to be your fault, right? And you actually are going to question yourself. Whatever you say does bounce off them and sticks to you. It'll stick to you. You are the glue, right? They're rubber. They'll just bounce it off. So you'll question yourself. And what I have to say about that is, if you are questioning yourself, are you the narcissist? I always do a 1-question test. People in my lives ask all the time, am I the narcissist? I say, do you want to know how you know if you're a narcissist? I'm going to ask you 1 question. I'm going to ask you, do you think you're a narcissist?
Yeah. And if they say, yeah, I'm worried that I think I'm the
Yeah, I'm
narcissist.
worried if I think I'm a narcissist. If they say, no, I absolutely don't think I'm a narcissist.
Yeah.
Or if they say, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
All of those 3 answers tell me that you are not one. Why? Because you've taken the time to self-reflect and decide whether you think you are one or you aren't. A narcissist's reply to that question will be, you're not qualified to ask me that question. I'm not answering. Right? Why would you even ask me that?
Absolutely.
They won't answer the question. They won't say they are one or they aren't one or they don't know, because they don't have the ability to self-reflect and take a
Mhm.
look at the past and take a mental inventory if they've hurt someone, because
Mhm.
they never think they're the problem. They always say that you're the problem. And the problem with that is you believe it. That's
Mhm.
why you think you're a narcissist, but you're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. And that's what I told her. I was like, the fact that you're even thinking, like saying to me right now, I'm afraid I might be the narcissist, means that you're probably not the narcissist. Right?
Mhm.
Just even verbalizing that. Now, what's interesting that we go on that topic is, I had a conversation with an ex-client. Now, he became an ex-client because, my gosh, narcissists are so good at playing it right for the first hour, and sometimes you don't realize it until after. So, sometimes they sneak by the matchmaking consultation, but not often anymore. And I remember when I came to the realization that this client is a narcissist, and as a matchmaker, I can't work with narcissists. And we're going to come back to that question. But I
Mhm.
remember when I was talking to him about it, why I was removing him from the book of love. And I was talking about gaslighting, and he gaslighting for me, because he's like, well, what is gaslighting? So I defined it. He's like, well, actually, gaslighting is this, this, and this, and this. And I was like, gosh, so this narcissist just gaslighting? You know what I mean?
The gaslighting gaslighter of gaslighting. Oh my goodness.
He gaslit gaslighting to me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the definition of narcissism. Now, I just wanted to share that little antidote, but how do you feel? Some people that don't understand narcissism, when I say that I literally cannot work with them as a matchmaker or dating coach, how do you feel about that? A matchmaker telling you that I could never work with a narcissist. Do you agree with that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that anyone who decides to work with anyone in a capacity has to feel comfortable with them, right? I think that in order for you to really give what you offer in your field to someone, you have to be giving from a full cup. You can't be feeling like someone's energy draining you and convincing you otherwise, and making you really not do your job because of the way might gaslight you, right? Or
Mhm.
manipulate you.
Mhm.
And most narcissists will manipulate for their own benefit. Now, I'm not to say that nobody manipulates. I think in therapy, therapists manipulate all the time for your benefit,
Mhm.
right? But a narcissist will manipulate you. And so if you're not feeling comfortable, you shouldn't be working with someone who makes you feel uncomfortable. In
Mhm.
coaching, I've had narcissists who've come
Gonna
in and
ask you. Yeah.
yeah, that they halfway through the session, I'm like, in my head, this person's manipulating me. Like
Mhm.
I can tell that they're not really here for the right reasons. They're not who they say they are, and they're not really for me or this.
Mhm.
And in that case, you do have to have boundaries in place. I do teach people how to use their boundaries and how to create boundaries and hold them firm. And for me, a personal boundary is I won't be manipulated or disrespected by anyone who I work with, no matter if they're paying me or what. So I think it's important that that is a boundary that you have and that you should hold that. And
Mhm.
if you don't want to work with someone who is toxic or manipulating, you shouldn't have to, because that would prevent you from the integrity of your job. So yeah, I think that that's a great boundary to keep in place for yourself.
Totally. And it's a lot to do with me and just my peace of mind and my capacity as well, but it's a lot to do with my clients. I think it'd be you're very, 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 very irresponsible of me to send people out on a matchmaking date with a narcissist because we know how detrimental they are in romantic relationships specifically.
Yeah.
And like narcissists are fascinating because they're really good at their jobs. Like you almost want to hire a narcissist if you want your business to explode because they are amazing at their careers. Let's be honest here, right? Whether or not you do, I don't know if you do agree with that or not, but
Yeah,
in
they are. They
in
are.
a romantic capacity, I just don't think that that would be, it's not a smart business move on my part. But what do you think about that though? Narcissists being amazing at their jobs. What does that look like, and why are they?
They are really good in high powered executive positions, because a lot of us actually, this is never really talked about that much, but there's healthy narcissism. There is
Okay.
narcissists, and narcissism exists on a continuum or a spectrum. So we are all on the spectrum of narcissism.
Hmm.
And there's high levels of empathy, and a lack of empathy is one of the behavioral traits, but there's high levels of empathy and very low levels of empathy. And people who are really low on the empathy, and I'm not talking about empaths, not spiritual, I'm talking about the ability to get into somebody's perspective and understand what they're feeling and have the ability to share a feeling. Narcissists can't do that. And so when you think about these high powered executives who don't have feelings, who are just cutthroat, they don't care about situations, they can really get stuff done. And when we go back to healthy narcissism, when we can access our healthy narcissism and have the ability to take risks, to be confident, to step above, step out, and do something that is out of your comfort zone, right? You can have a healthy narcissistic behavior that gets you to do something powerful. And that doesn't mean that in your personal life or in other situations, you can show empathy for others and care for others. But most narcissists don't care about others. They only care about serving themselves and getting that supply, that hit. And even if it hurts somebody else, in that's the exchange, they don't care. That's why they're really good at these high powered jobs, especially in HR. Watch out for narcissists in
What?
HR.
What? I have never heard that before.
Yes,
I know a
it's
lot of HR people too. Why is there so much narcissism in HR?
because it's business only and you can cut someone off. And they're really good at masking that they do care about you as a person, but really they're just looking for the bottom line and making sure
Mhm.
that they can take care of the company. And narcissists know how to play a mask. They know how to pretend to be something they're not. They mirror all of these qualities in you, especially in a romantic relationship, where they really look like the real thing. Like they're
Mhm.
really, really good at becoming your soulmate, the love of your life, like whatever it is you fall for, because they pick up those qualities and they pretend to be this person who has empathy, who does
Mhm.
care for you, who is in love with you. And that's who you fall for. You fall for a mask. You fall for a facade, a fake person. I have heard a lot of HR people do that. And then at the very end, they're all of a sudden not for you anymore. So
Wow.
yeah, that's something I've heard of.
I love it. I love that. I've never heard that before, but I can absolutely see it. And I'm going to
See
keep an
it,
eye out
right?
now.
Yeah.
Now, I would love for you to, now, you and I both know your first narcissist. And that's kind of how we met, was through him. Now, based on what you feel comfortable sharing, I would love to hear a little bit about your story, how you met him, how the relationship evolved, how that, when that mask fell off. Like, tell us a little bit about that story and how you knew it was time to get out.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
a
wild
big question.
it's a wild story. It's a crazy experience that I went through. I was super young. I was in my 20s
You're a baby.
and I was a baby and I
You're a
didn't
baby.
have the life experience to really see things, which I feel that most narcissists don't know that they're narcissists. They just kind of go about their day and just kind of do whatever works for them. And so, of course, we don't see it when we're at that age. And we also don't see it in early narcissism, like when they're really trying to learn and understand their own craft, right? Which they don't understand what it is, but when they do, they're whatever works for somebody, they just continue to do it. When him and I met, we met at a workplace. We're both very competitive. We were both in our 20s, both single, in a group of singles selling a door-to-door product in small town Canada. Okay. And if you can imagine 12 single people fresh out of school or fresh out of like just, new jobs, new careers, and living in small confines in these hotel rooms for 15, 16 days at a time. There was partying happening. There was a lot of like, just, this teenage angst kind of energy, but we're all in our young adulthood and we're all just having fun. And that's how we met. We both thrived in that area. And he was very unemployable. I'll say that's the word. He got fired right away from his arrogance. One of the 9 behavioral traits. He was very arrogant. He got fired right away. And then we carried on a relationship. And in the very beginning of that relationship, he was perfect. He was exactly me. We liked the same music. We liked the same food. And he also idolized me, which everything I did was like Madonna, like it was perfect. I could do no wrong. He put me on this pedestal. He put me way at the top of this pedestal. And he basically made me feel as if I was the only person in his entire whole world that mattered. I went to bed every night in the first year of that relationship, never wondering if I mattered. I always knew that I was that person in his life. And then most narcissists have heavy addiction issues. And a lot of them suffer from addiction. And he had all sorts of vices. And in the addictions, I kind of got them confused. I confused his abuse with addictions, that when he was in active addiction, I would be abused. There was a lot of verbal abuse. There was a lot of emotional abuse, financial abuse in the relationship, and just real disrespect when it came to fidelity and, just the image that he had of me really deteriorated. He really started insulting me and started calling me names all the time. And a lot of that I just attributed to, well, he's just drunk, he's just on drugs, like he's just has addictions and that's just the thing. I actually found out that he was, cheating on me and, making out with my best friend and things like that. And we ended up breaking up. And I left that relationship for a good 2 years. What a narcissist does when you leave them is they hoover you back. The hoovering is a technique that they do to try to get you back into the cycle of abuse. And a 12-page letter written, typed out with a table of contents and photos was all it took to get me back. And I married him.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And what narcissists love to do is they like to hook you. So whether that's something legal, like, getting in business together or buying a house together or having kids or getting married, all of these things happened and all of these things hooked me so that I had no place left to go. 3 kids later, and I was stuck. I was basically stuck with the abuse. What I said earlier about a mask, a narcissist will wait till they hook you and keep you locked in so that you don't have a place to go. And then they drop the mask and they completely turn into a monster. And he was very, very, very abusive. Near that end of the relationship, there were so many times that I tried to leave. And every time I tried to leave, it would be met with, playing the victim. He would cry, he would apologize, he would say he was going to change, that he would stop drinking. And then I would let my guard down and think that things were going to get better, and also fool myself and be in complete denial that I was with someone this abusive. And also the shame and embarrassment of telling all of my family and friends that I was in something good. This is a good marriage, right? Like that we've got 3 kids. We're going to work this out. Like they've witnessed abuse, but they still are like, well, you know, Ro makes her decisions. She's with someone that she loves. And this is just tumultuous love is what I thought. It's just tumultuous love. We just fight sometimes. But it was more than that. And when I realized I didn't actually think I was with a narcissist, I just thought I was unhappy. How I saw that was I started to see my behaviors change. I lost my light. I stopped singing. You know, I stopped hanging out with my friends. I isolated myself. I was a shell of a human being. I was depressed. I was filled with anxiety. I have diagnosed OCD, and that really ramped up near the end because I had no control over my life in that part of the relationship, that I had to control things around me, like the way I ate my food and the way I organized my clothes. And I was taking medication for that. He also weaponized my illness and my medication and would say things like, oh, you're on your meds, you're off your meds again. That's why you act like that. Or, well, your mother was depressed, and so that's why you're like that, right? That's why you're acting. It's just because you're depressed. He would body shame me, fat shame me after I had 3 of his kids, tell me that I need to lose weight, that he wants his hot wife back. And then there was all of the deception and lies. And that was in the form of infidelity and escort services. And that's part of the financial abuse. He put us in heavy, heavy debt, spending all this money on weekends to himself in hotels. And when I saw all that, it was like, it was, even though it was all in front of me, I'm like, well, this is my husband. You know, I still had this obligation, right? I had fear, I had guilt, I had obligation. And that's kind of what happens when we're stuck in these situations, when it's really hard for us to leave. I ended up wanting to go to couples counseling after he suggested it. And he was always, you know, I always used to say to him, why do you hate me so much? You hate me so much. Why do you still want me? Why do you still want to be married? Well, because we have kids. I'm like, but you hate me. He's like, correction, we hate each other.
Mhm.
Right? But you're abusive to me. Correction, we abuse each other. Right? It was never, he could never take accountability. It was always we. In therapy, then what happened in therapy was we separated in therapy. Like in therapy, we had separate sessions, and he was told that he was NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. That was met with, this therapist is a quack. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She is delusional. And she's just this desperate divorced woman who wants to ruin people's marriages. And I said, well, okay, I still want to see her. Well, no, I'm firing her, but I still want to see her. Yeah, you can go see her all you want. I'm like, will you sign this so that I could continue to see her? Like, you know, yeah, whatever, do it. She doesn't know what she's talking about. He never took that diagnosis. He never did anything with it. She offered to help him and to help him cope with that, because it does root from childhood trauma, which he's had a lot of. And he said, nope. And she actually helped me with an exit strategy, and she helped me move out, and she helped me divorce and leave him.
Mm-hmm.
So in his suggestion of let's get help, let's work on the marriage, let's go to therapy, it turned into now have an exit strategy and I'm leaving you.
Yeah.
So I thank her, like that she really saved my life. But in those moments, I didn't know, like I still was like, whatever, maybe I'm with a narcissist, but at least I'm leaving. I didn't really understand it. So that's when I knew for sure. It was a moment, we had a fight where he was apologizing for screaming and yelling at me, for accusing me of cheating when I wasn't. And it was in that moment that he said, don't feel bad. About 8 months ago, I hired an escort, but I never did anything with her because she didn't show up. So don't feel bad about what happened today, because I'm I also do bad things too. And it was that moment I took the rings off. That was November 15th, 2019. I remember that day, specifically remember that day. That was the moment I just knew. I didn't know that he was a narcissist, but I knew that that marriage was over. And that's the moment where everything clicked for me. And I always tell clients all the time, you'll have a moment. It might not be today, it might not be in a year, or maybe it's tomorrow, but one day it's like the lights turned on, you can see. And that's the moment where I could see. And ever since that day, it's been unraveling layers of an onion, just like realizing what I was in. It was so jaw dropping, some of the things. So yeah, that's the whole cycle. And that was 14 years.
Wow.
That whole thing happened in 14 years.
I don't think that the onion ever really stops unraveling either. Are you finding things like every single day, every single week where you're like, my gosh, that was what that was?
Yeah. And you're like, wow, it's almost like an out of body experience.
Yeah.
You're almost like looking at it from an outside perspective and just being like, what in the actual?
You can swear on this podcast.
Okay,
just so you know.
Just making sure.
Just so you know, everybody, she worded fuck.
In the actual fuck. That's what happens. It's almost as if, like, I had a moment where I was sitting with my girlfriends one night and we were talking about what happened with me. And I said a story about one of the fat shaming stories and some specific things he said verbatim. And all 6 girls at the dinner had their jaws on the floor and they were like, bro,
yeah,
what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was just a Tuesday. Like, really? You guys are that shocked? They're like, that was just my Tuesday. That's just how that was. They were like,
I want to ask you, because you were talking at the very beginning of this podcast about complex PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain a little bit about what that is, like define it, and then how that manifests for you?
Yeah. So my CPTSD was diagnosed by my therapist. When we think of post-traumatic stress disorder, we think of war vets. We think of people who've been in car crashes, people who've been in these immense physical traumatic experiences, because our bodies hold trauma. And then we have stress from the trauma post-trauma. Complex PTSD is something that occurs with emotional abuse, something that occurs that isn't necessarily affecting you directly in your physical body. It's more mental, and it can develop over long periods of trauma. And narcissistic abuse is traumatic. So for me, and it manifests and it presents in so many different ways. For me, it presented in psychogenic tremors. I would get, my hands would shake. Wow. And they would feel as if certain situations would come up and I would be triggered. And my hands would feel like they were on pins and needles and I would have to shake them like this. Other ways that it comes up is lack of sleep, having to stay up all night just because I have a hard time sleeping, ruminating over situations and things, and then becoming anxious about not making sense or having it not click, not getting clarity. And then just like daily anxiety. So for me, CPTSD presents in all the ways that look like just depression or anxiety.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I know that there's probably a lot of people listening right now that have either been in a narcissistic relationship before and maybe aren't aware of it, or are experiencing some of those symptoms of complex PTSD. So I hope that this helps people, and I really appreciate you sharing that story, because I know it's some serious stuff. But I would love to keep talking about it. We might have to do like a part 2 of Row and bring you on for another episode. Maybe if anybody has any questions, send them my way. But I wanted to kind of come back into dating. So I know that there are signs. You were talking about the 9 main, what were they called? 9
behavioral traits.
9 behavioral traits. Now, can you explain? I know there's a huge fear, especially now that narcissism is the buzzword, as you call it. There's a huge fear of a lot of singles that they are going to eventually date a narcissist because they've never dated one before. They don't know how to recognize it. Can you describe, maybe in the early stage of a relationship, from like meeting to month 1, some things that people can keep an eye out for to be cautious of dating a narcissist?
Yeah. So I talk about this in a course that I built called Healthy Dating After Abuse.
Oh, where can people come find that stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's coming soon on the link tree in my bio. It is also, there's a smaller version of it released on my friend's app called the NARC app, which is called, it stands for Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community. And
Mhm.
his name is Raw Motivations. He's a self-aware narcissist, and he's created an app that has courses. One of my courses is on there already. It's called Healthy Dating After Abuse.
Amazing.
All of that is in my bio. So if you think about a red flag, and one of the modules in that course is about red flags. When you think about a red flag, what is it? It's a warning of danger, right? Somebody throws up a red flag, danger, danger, right? That's what a red flag is. How do we know what a red flag is in a narcissist or a toxic person or a predator? Well, we have to understand how a predator's mind works or a narcissist's mind works. They're manipulative. People who are manipulative are also selfish. They also want something now, and they'll also manipulate you to get what they want right now. And in dating, what they want is access to you and have you drop your guard and trust them right away. So they will say things, specific things that will manipulate you to trust them too soon. One of the things they will say is that they have a really strong connection with you. If they say that to you on a first date, that is a red flag, because how do you develop a connection with someone you don't know? And sometimes you might even hear, I love you. Within a few days or within a week, if someone says that, they either A, don't really love you, they just really want you badly, or they're saying that to get you to feel like you maybe love them too. So that would be a red flag. Somebody says that. These are just love bombing lines that people will say to try to get you to fall for them. And the love bomb always covers up the red flag. So you can't actually see that it's a red flag when they're busy love bombing you. That would be a red flag. Within the first month of dating, if they start sharing a lot of their trauma with you, or saying that all their exes were crazy, or that they have had a bad relationship with their kids or their kids' mom or their kids' dad, or, that all of their bosses fire them because they're hard to deal with. They've got this negative attitude about the life around them and what they've gone through, and they start sharing all of that you right away. They do this for a couple reasons. A, they're probably just negative people in general, which most toxic people are. They think that the world's out to get them. And B, they're doing it so that you trust them enough to share your trauma with them. If they're sharing their trauma, if they've had this situation happen with them as a child, or they've had this, then you're going to feel like you could maybe share something about you. And what a narcissist will do later on in the relationship is they will weaponize your trauma against you. They'll say, well, that's not what happened. You're not mad at me for that. It's just because your mom did that to you. Or, what happened to you when you were 6, that's what this is about. This isn't even about that. Or, they'll take your mental health and they'll weaponize it. So be careful with someone who shares too much too soon, and also hold really close the stuff that you share about yourself. Because the fact is, when we're dating, we don't know these people. We don't know them. They have to take the time to get to know you. And a person who's not manipulative, a person who is generous with their time and getting to know you, will take the time to get to know you. And they will want to ask you questions, and in conversation, learn about you and not force it out of you. So those are some of the things. People who are very forceful in wanting to get to know you and want to move too fast. Moving too fast is another red flag. So those are the things I usually tell people to warn them, especially with online dating, because it's really easy to just flip through, and it's a narcissist's dream. They can just take their pick to see who's the most vulnerable. That happened to me. I was with another one for 9 months right after the one that I married, and I was selected out of a dating app.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too, because your first narcissist you met when you were so young that, it's sometimes hard to even recognize those early signs. So then when we get into another relationship, later on, experiencing that again is its own. Now, did you find that there was a different type of behavior based on the two different narcissists? Do they all do the same thing, or do they have their own repertoire of abuse?
Their own toolbox of
Their own
abuse.
toolbox of abuse.
It's funny because I do say this all the time, that narcissists don't know that they're narcissists.
Yeah.
They don't. They have no idea what they're doing, but I do feel like inside they know that they're doing you wrong. Like I know that. They were very different, these two men. We'll call them guys. They were very different guys. And one of them, the one I married, was very, he was abusive in the sense that he liked to feel better about himself by making other people feel bad. So he was really good at verbal abuse, attacks. He was really good at deception and lying. And it was really fun for him to lie and to be a different person. And then the gaslighting was really intense with him too, because he wanted to make me feel crazy. So he would play little games and like run around the house and put something over here and move it over there, hide my keys, like throw away parts of my outfit that he didn't like, and then say that he didn't know, he's never seen it before. What are you talking about? You never had those purple pants. Meanwhile, he's like, I hate those purple pants, right? Like that's how he was. The narcissist that I dated for 9 months was more controlling and possessive and accusatory. Now, the one I married, he did accuse me sometimes of cheating, but that was his way of just admitting that he was cheating. The one that I dated, he would be very controlling with my time and say, where were you at 11 p.m.? You know, you said you went to bed at 9. Why were you active on Instagram at 11 p.m.? You know, where did you go? I checked your odometer and you drove for this many kilometers. And if anybody knows, we're in Canada, so we use kilometers here. But he would check my kilometers and see how many kilometers I was driving in my vehicle to check on me, make sure that I wasn't driving. You only take your kids to school and back. Where did you go? Who did you see? That was his behaviors. He was more controlling and possessive, while as the one I married was just more insulting and just abusive verbally. So they were different. So it was weird for me because it didn't seem like the marriage. It seemed like a different person, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't like, oh, I don't know if I like this because it reminds me of the marriage. I got to get out. It was a completely different type of abuse. And there's different types of narcissists as well. So they were very different. But in the end, they both ended up post-separation abusing me with stalking and like and calling all the time and just like really obsessive like post-separation behavior. And yeah, it was different, but they were both, I think the second one was just, it was a lot easier to leave. If I could identify the distinction between the two, one was just so much easier to leave.
Was it because he wasn't local, or was it because of the kids? Like, why was he so much easier to leave?
Oh, he was local. He lived
Yeah.
here. He's since moved, so thank goodness. But because I didn't have kids with him, I wasn't married to him. I didn't have that commitment, right? I didn't have, it was very obvious what he was doing. He was just making me feel so uncomfortable. And it was very easy for me to just go, no, this person's controlling and possessive. Bye. Yeah. And I could leave. I mean, 9 months is still kind of too long. Yeah. 1 day is too long with a narcissist, really, but it was easier to leave. So if that was the biggest difference, it was easier to leave. And then he reached out to the first one.
Did he really?
Yeah. In
to
the
say
end.
What? To commiserate over the love
I
for
want to
you.
talk to you about her. I want to know what happened. I thought I knew her. I guess I didn't. Can we have a conversation, please?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. It was
Did your first narcissist ignore him?
Yes, thank goodness.
Oh, that is good.
He sent it to me and said, do we have a problem here? Is this the kids of the safety okay? Is this, I'm like, just please ignore it and just let's leave that be. Yeah. And he got uppity about that one and wanted to, use that as some sort of, way to prove that I was incompetent as a mom or whatever, but it didn't work. So, but it's just the drama of the narcissists.
You know what's interesting? My narcissist, he lived in California and I lived here. So all I experienced with him was love bombing. So when I reflect back on my relationship with my narcissist, it was probably the most passionate romantic experience I've ever had,
Yeah.
because we would see each other once a month, once every 3 months, and he would fly me somewhere new, and I would be love bombed for a week, week and a half, and then come back here and live reality. You know what I mean? But what was interesting, it was almost like all those little abuses were compacted into that 1.5 week time together, because every third day I would be crying because he would pull away or gaslight or just get really cold or say something nasty or something like that. So it was almost like it was all compacted into this little 1 week, 2 week time frame. And every third day there was drama whenever we traveled somewhere new. So in my experience, I fortunately was able to just, and you said, you just wake up one day and it's like a switch in your head. I was just done. And I unfortunately just blocked and deleted all of this stuff. And he lived on the other side of the world. So it was really easy to just disappear, right, on him. So that was my experience with the narcissist. But he was very much, I don't know the term for it, I'm not an expert on narcissism, but he was very much the victim. There was a lot of love bombing. He was beautiful, he was handsome, he was charismatic, he would pay for everything, and all of those things. But my experience was just a long distance experience, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one thing you said there that really resonated was and this is very common with narcissistic people, is they do these phases of abuse. And you
Mm-hmm.
said every 3 days there was this, there was every 3 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the narcissist I married, it was like every 3 months, maybe it would be every
Yeah.
3 months that would happen. And it's the cycle. It's what I said in the beginning, which the love bombing occurs, and then the idealization, and then it's the devaluation. Then they start to say things, do things that you're wondering when you're going to get this person back. And then you get a period of calm. Then all of a sudden they're apologizing. Then they go back to the love bombing, and then you're back in this cycle. And it's almost like a menstrual cycle. You're almost like, okay, here comes Aunt Flo again, right? Like, and I didn't know when Jekyll's the bad one? Yeah. Or Hyde.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have no idea
I don't know which
actually.
one. I think it's
Jekyll, it's Jekyll.
Jekyll. Jekyll
Yeah,
sounds like he's the bad one.
he's
So
evil.
yeah, the Jekyll would return, and it was like this Jekyll and Hyde phase. It would go around in circles. For you, it was every 3 days. And the thing with that is that we get stuck in the perpetual cycle of abuse, and the loop continues and continues and continues, and we can't get out of it. And that's how they keep us in. And one day when we wake up and the light turns on and we can leave, that it just ends. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a matter of what I said earlier about hoovering. It's a matter of understanding what a hoover is and what it means to be drawn back. I'm so proud of you for blocking him and deleting and getting rid of that situation. And always be careful of a hoovering technique. Always be careful if you're very particularly vulnerable, or you have euphoric memories, euphoric recall, and start remembering those love bombing phases, which a lot of clients do. A lot of people do in these situations. And they go, well, he was good. They were good at one point. And then all of a sudden they hoover you back and you're back in a relationship with them. Just be careful with that, because it's so common. I ended up
Mm-hmm.
marrying the one that I thought I was done with. So that's something to be careful of, that they will always put you back in the cycle. It never gets better unless they're actually doing work continually every day and they know they're a narcissist.
Yeah.
It's the only way.
Now that actually goes into a question that I don't have listed. I could go on about this all day. We
I
have to
know.
do a part two. Oh my
We
gosh.
do.
But
I'm in for part 2.
we got to do a part two, maybe in 3 months time. But self-aware narcissist, you're saying that, you're working with a friend of yours that is a self-aware narcissist. And I think I know who you're talking about because I see him all over TikTok. I love him to death. He was really the first one that I started listening to in regards to self-aware narcissism. Now, can you describe what that's like? Like, for a narcissist to never accept that they're a narcissist, what does the journey look like for a self-aware narcissist?
So there's 2 that I work with specifically. Little plug, we work together as a team called the Narc Avengers on TikTok. And if you Google Narc Avengers, or you hashtag the Narc Avengers, you'll see there's myself as well as other coaches and 2 psychologists and 2 self-aware narcissists. One being who I think you're talking about, Lee Hammock. He runs the page Mental Healness. Yeah. The one I was talking about that has the app, the Narc app, is Ben Taylor. He runs Raw Motivations. Both are very lovely people. Both are my friends. Both are self-aware narcissists who have abused their partners and other people in their lives. their journeys are both really different, but very similar. And if you follow mental illness, either on YouTube or TikTok, you'll see he has videos where he shares his story about how it happened. One day his wife told him, it's so hard dealing with a narcissist. And he's like, what? No, you're the narcissist. But then he was curious about it because a lot of narcissists are very competitive. They're very, like you said earlier, they're really good at their jobs, right? They're really good at just getting to the bottom of things and solving stuff. And he really wanted to figure that out for himself. He started going to therapy, then became his journey of mental illness and learning what that is that he was going through. He says in one of his videos that he always felt different. Why does everyone cry for these emotional things and I don't care? Like, why? Right? He always felt different and it made so much sense. And now both him and Ben are in therapy continually, and they have both said that they will go to therapy for the rest of their lives in order for them to continue on this journey, right? Because a narcissist cannot change out of being a narcissist. It's like being an addict. You cannot be just not an alcoholic anymore. You always are in recovery. So a self-aware narcissist is in recovery. Basically, what they're doing is they're learning about themselves. They're understanding what they've done to people. They will gain and learn the ability to self-reflect, but it takes a lot of work. It takes owning up to your mistakes. It takes being accountable and being responsible for everything you've done. And it also takes being vulnerable in the moment every day. Most narcissists who are unaware won't do that. They're not going to be vulnerable. They don't want to have feelings. They don't want to hold them and share them with others. They're like, ick, feelings are gross. They don't want them. And so they're going to place them and hold them and make sure that you're holding them for them and project them onto you. So it takes daily work. And they've both said how hard it is some days to just be like, wait a minute, this is not about me. This is about them. And I need to have empathy. So yes, they can learn empathy. They can learn how to love. They can learn how to connect, but it takes work every day. And they're very rare. They're like unicorns. They're hard to come by. There's 2 on TikTok and there's a few other in the community, but it takes a lot of work. It's a huge, huge feat to be a self-aware narcissist because I mean, if I think about my ex-husband, there's absolutely no way he would even admit to taking the last piece of bacon, let alone be a narcissist. Right? Like they won't admit
what
it.
a great analogy. That was so good. Okay, one more question before we're going to finish up, of course, with you telling everybody how to find you. But one more question. I can recognize a male narcissist from a mile away now, just through experience and meeting enough of them. Women narcissists, though, I have a hard time picking them out. Can you describe the difference between the two, if the traits are the same, or like, what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So abuse is abuse. It knows no gender. So when you're in an abusive situation, it doesn't matter if they're male or female. It's abuse. So that's just a quick disclaimer. I get a lot of people sometimes asking me, why don't you? And I always say they, them. I always say people, person. I never try to use, unless I'm specifically talking about my personal story, do I ever say him or her or whatnot. So abuse does exist in both. But narcissism itself, it's easy to identify a male narcissist because of the whole like bitter baby mama stuff and all of this kind of like child support and whatever happens in these parental dynamics. But a female narcissist, which took me a long time to actually see them in my friendships and family, but now knowing what I know, I see it. And when you're in these toxic dynamics and you have this primary toxic person in your life, you forget all about the secondary toxic people and what behaviors come about with certain people. And they've displayed in these ways. Jealousy, they will act very victim, like everything is happening to me. They monopolize conversation. And they use their sexuality, and this is for women. They use their sexuality as a form of control and manipulation. I do have a lot of male clients with female narcissistic partners that they're trying to heal from. And a lot of the things that they say, all of them say, is that how they use their sexuality in a controlling manner, that they would basically like withhold, and then give them sex when they want something. Withhold, and then be very affectionate and be very intimate with them. And then they would also use that as a way to make them jealous with other men in their lives. So they'd be flirting with the boss or flirting with the brother or the cousin or whatever, in front of them, and be very flirty and sexual with somebody in front of them, not doing anything, very passive aggressive flirting. So they're not actually going full at it, but they're doing that in front of them to show them that, hey, I can give this person attention and I'm not giving you any attention. So
Fascinating.
it is. It's really interesting, but the statistics are higher for men, obviously, but they're harder to detect in women. So absolutely makes sense that you were like, how?
Okay, good. Because I was like, man, I really kind of want to be able to recognize all this stuff. But I did have a feeling that it was a little bit harder. Now, finish off the episode, girl. And tell us exactly the website, the handles of where people can find you.
So I operate as Rollercoaster of Love on TikTok, on all platforms. On Instagram, it's _Rollercoaster of Love. The business name is Rollercoaster of Love Inc., which is the name of the Facebook support group that I have. So if you do want to join that community, it's Rollercoaster of Love Inc. You can find it there. I have a podcast called So I Married the Narcissist, and that can be found on all platforms. And my website is rollercoasteroflove.ca, and all of my coaching services, resources to other people's pages that I work with and vouch for are all on that website. And yeah, I'm also on YouTube under Rollercoaster of Love. So YouTube is basically just longer videos that I've been making on the subject of narcissism.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the Book of Love podcast. It was so amazing having you here.
Yay. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. And yes, stay tuned for part 2.
Okay, Ro, we're done recording. So when you first started talking for the first 10 minutes, I actually got emotional. I didn't show it, but like, and I didn't want to say this on the live or on the podcast. I am so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Know.
I'm gonna get emotional too.
I know, but it feels like we met when we were babies, and then like, my gosh, and I knew your ex, and I mean, in hindsight, I'm like, fuck yeah, he's a narcissist, you know.
Right when you see it, now you can't unsee it. Oh my god,
you can't unsee it.
So
plus, I've heard all of it.
$50,000 in 1 year of prostitutes.
My gosh, yeah. But I'm so proud of you, and just watching you grow on TikTok too. Like, not even the followers, but watching the quality of the videos, and you're so knowledgeable. Like, sometimes and I just want to say this, get your podcast going, girl, because you are so knowledgeable that like sometimes I'm afraid to gear off of the questions I have listed because people don't know their stuff. You fucking know your stuff, girl.
Oh, thanks.
I know you know all this, but I just want to tell you, like, my God, so good.
I get that feedback, and I appreciate you saying that because I've known you for so long, right? But I get that feedback sometimes from like my viewers, and I have like, when you're suffering from CPTSD and you've had a narcissist in your life who's been so abusive in the body shaming and stuff, and just like always devaluing me, like he always devalued me, like, you don't, like, what, you didn't know what fowl was? Like one time I didn't know what fowl was, like I didn't realize that that's like birds, like I didn't understand that that's what that meant. What do you know? Are you stupid? Like, how do you not know that? Like, these are the things he used to say to me, and you get imposter syndrome. So when I'm out in the world trying to like be me and try to do stuff and try to like have a career, I get this like, really, you think I'm really great? And I see these people in the lives come in and say, oh, you know your shit. Like, wow, this is amazing that you're saying this. Like, this makes so much sense. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So I get weird about it. So thank you for sharing that.
I know it's weird to hear, isn't it? But I talk to on the podcast a lot of professionals in their stuff, and I know people that know their shit, and I know people that don't know their shit, and you fucking know your shit. So I'm excited to watch you grow. I can only see the limit. Like, I can see the sky is your limit. Like, you're gonna do amazing things.
Thank you.
Really
I appreciate it. I'm going to Mexico in 2 weeks with 2 TikTokers that are my mentors. Like, so I don't know if have you ever seen Stronger Than Before?
I probably will recognize it, but I don't recognize
Lisa.
the names.
Her name's Lisa Sani, and she's like got black hair. She's Italian. And she was the first person, her and Lee were the first people that I saw on TikTok that taught me all about narcissism. All of a sudden my FYPs flooded with narcissist stuff. I'm like, what is this? Then I just started learning about it, and she was I followed her from like day one, and then 1 year later she follows me back, and I'm like, I'm going to Mexico with her. Her and another psychologist, Carrie. Amazing. And we're gonna make TikToks, and like we're both in the Narc Avengers. That's how we met. Now we talk about our dating stories and stuff, and like we're such besties. But it's just so crazy. Like None of this would have happened without TikTok. I freaking
No.
love TikTok so much.
Congratulations. I know TikTok is the best. TikTok just like saved me through COVID, really boosted my coaching and
Totally.
everything. Like it's fascinating. It's amazing. Yeah.
I love that. I love it. When are you coming to Calgary? You should come.
Gosh, you know what? I don't think I'm ever going to come back to Calgary ever.
No.
You know, I lived there for 5 years and I think that's the chapter that's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Vancouver for a visit or Victoria and come over to Calgary for a visit, but probably not.
Do you still talk to any of the keys?
Sarah Key.
Sarah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the OG. So she's getting married, I think fall 2023.
Amazing. I think she's like probably her and Jessica would probably be the only one that like see my content and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I was super tight with Sheena for a really long time, and then something happened, and now I'm not.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's it's weird because it's like they're like family, but they're not, it's hard to like stay. I want to change my name as well. Like I want to change it to Ro Faye.
Yeah.
But my kids, like they're still keys. So it's just tough.
Yeah.
I want to let all of that go.
Yeah. I know Jessica's a sweetheart too. And yeah, Sarah's lovely. And I was pretty tight with Sheena too. I used to live with her, but again, two separate paths in life.
That's exactly what I said. Yeah. I'm like, we're on two separate paths. I'm living this life. You're living that life. Sometimes friendships are a season, and this one's just kind of ended.
Well, she did that boss ass thing where she was like the first female judge of snowboarding somewhere.
Yeah. It's really awesome.
Yeah.
So we're just like both on different paths. And I feel like, sometimes you just kind of go on different paths, but I would love to come to Halifax. I should come back. I need to. I love it there.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. Halifax is amazing. And it's completely changed. Like even the area that I showed you, it's all bars now too. Like it was not like that when you were here.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. You know, maybe I'll come to Calgary, do a speed dating event just for Ro,
Maybe. I would love that.
Yeah. So you can be the one bachelor and we'll just rotate the men in front of you.
Totally. Like the course. So the mini course is on that NARC app. And then I'm going to take that mini course and turn it into a big course. And then just on Sunday, I was in a support group for my friend Kelly Kowalik coaching. She does like a support group, and she had me guest speak at it talking about healthy dating after abuse. Yeah. And one of the things that people asked was, well, how do we date? Like they thought I was going to give them tips on how to date. I'm like, no, you got to get a dating coach for that. I'm a life coach. Like, but I was like, there's online dating, there's speed dating, but I didn't know anything about speed dating. So that would be really cool to like,
when your course is fully up, I'm doing a course too. It's the compound dating technique, which teaches people the action of, so basically the coaching that I do for dating coaching, it's all action based. I don't do a lot on like self-reflection or the healing from a narcissist. So when you're done your course, and even the one that you have done now, send me the link. Okay. I would love to have it in my repertoire because I have a lot of clients that come to me that have, just gotten out of a narcissistic relationship or having a hard time dating because of an ex-narcissistic relationship. Cool. That should take your course before ever taking anything of mine.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I have it set up on Podia. So once
me
it's
too.
live,
I love Podia.
Yeah. So once it's live, I'll just like put an affiliate link for you and just like give you the link. And that way it's like that way it's on there. And then you can give me yours too. If you don't have to affiliate it if you don't want to, but you can just give me the link so that I have extra resources so that
I would love to do that too, because mine is just, my current course is just how to properly online date.
Yeah.
So that might be fun for some of your clients too, where they can really kind of like create the perfect profile and swipe with the right mindset. And then we can do that like back and forth. Yeah. This is a relationship.
We should do that. I love this collab. So the Narc Avengers, I'm apparently Spider-Man. Like they've picked the Avengers for each one. I don't know why I'm Spider-Man, but I guess I am. And we all bring in different elements, like the 2 self-aware narcissists, 2 psychologists, and then coaching. And some of us are like, they deal with high conflict divorce, co-parenting, narcissistic parents. And for me, I'm dating. Like that's healthy dating after abuse is what my niche is. We have micro niches within the narcissism niche. And so I have like my friend Chantel Heidi. Yeah. So like her as a dating coach, and then I'll put you in there as well, like just for resources, because they're going to, when we get the website up and running, it'll be all of our niches and all of our resources with it. So the Narc Avengers, we already purchased narcavengers.com. So we're going to get that. It's going to be like live in a couple weeks.
Well, let me send you my online course. So I want you to first watch it and do it before you, of course, respond. Like put your name
I'll
behind
see
it,
it.
right? So
Yeah.
I'll get rid of like the cost and I'll just send that to you so you can take it at your leisure
Cool.
and see what you think
Yeah.
of
And
it.
I'll do
And
the
then,
same. I do the same when mine's fully live and stuff like that too. So
yeah, and we'll go from
I
there.
love this. I love
Oh,
this. Yay. So
okay,
exciting.
part 2 in 3 months. I'll be in touch.
Okay, cool.
Oh, can you send me an email or a DM or whatever up? I want really beautiful pictures of you. So I'm actually going to create a YouTube video. I'm also going to create like a bunch of photos and stuff for social media promotion. So do you have like 3 or 4 really gorgeous like pictures of you?
I don't know if I do. I mean,
Oh,
I have like my profile pic. I just like take
yeah,
pictures with me in a hat. That's like kind of my thing.
yeah.
And then I'll use them sometimes for my YouTube videos. I'll take like shots of my whatever video I made and then just like take it out and it's just me. So
Hmm.
I can give you what I have. If
Yeah, please do.
like 3 or 4,
Yeah, please do.
or 1 or 2.
3 or 4, because then I'm going to pick 1 or 2.
Okay, got it. Okay, I'll send you what I have. I'll send you what I have for pictures.
All right. And any bio you have now, I can go find all your stuff, but it's easier for you to just like throw a bio in that email too, so that I can use it for the
Yeah,
show notes. And I'm going to have all your links in the show notes too. So
cool, amazing, awesome.
big butt girl, you're so
Okay,
amazing.
bye. Same with you. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.